Yo, America, planet Earth, what's up? This is your boy Codell, and welcome back to another episode of the Father's Gospel Podcast. I'm so glad you all are here with me today. Hey, I've got a good episode. I've got some big news, some beautiful news. So check this out, you guys. The IRS will no longer be trying to penalize churches for supporting politicians, legislation, all that good stuff. So I got an article I'm going to share with you guys. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. This is really dope. This is big news. And then obviously, I'm going to kind of just let you know my thoughts on this article and what's going on and what I think it's going to lead to. So let's get into it. All right, you guys, I'm going to share my screen real quick. I'm on a new app, so I'm using that Riverside FM. So if I'm a little slow, bear with me. All right, here we go. So check this out, you guys. It says IRS says churches can now endorse political candidates, right? All right. So it says in a break with decades of tradition, the Internal Revenue Service says it will allow houses of worship to endorse candidates for political office without losing their tax exempt status. The surprise announcement came in a court document filed on Monday. Since 1954, a provision in the tax code called the Johnson Amendment says that churches and other nonprofit organizations could lose their tax-exempt status if they participate in or intervene in any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for public office. So basically, they've been threatening their cashola, and I got to be honest, the churches, the organizations, the 501c3s in general, they've definitely bent the knee to it. So let's keep going. Now, the national religious broadcasters and several churches sued the IRS, this is good, over the rule, arguing that it infringes on their First Amendment rights to the freedom of speech and the free exercise of religion. The IRS rarely enforced the rule during President Trump's first term. He promised to get rid of and totally destroy the Johnson Amendment and allow our representatives of faith to speak freely and without fear of retribution. I obviously agree with that. I mean, this is America. Our rights were given to us by God. It's written in the Constitution, and we have the right to speak freely as long as we're not threatening to murder people, pretty much, do crazy stuff like that. We got the right to say what we want to say. And I, for one, this is my personal opinion, I think it's extremely not only important, but I think it's actually the responsibility and duty of churches and charities to openly support candidates and legislation that they believe in. That's how I feel about it. So let's get back to it, okay? So where was I? All right. In Monday's court filing, the IRS didn't go that far, but it did say that when a house of worship in good faith speaks to its congregation through its customary channels of communication on matters of faith in connection with religious services concerning electoral politics viewed through the lens of religious faith, it neither participates nor intervenes in a political campaign. Rather, the IRS compared religious institutions' endorsement of candidates to a family discussion. Well, I agree. I mean, churches are a family, and even charities, 501c3s in general, they are what? They're set up to help people. So, in a way, anything that is a 501c3 is kind of supposed to operate like a family, right? So, thus, communication from a house of worship to its congregation in connection with religious services through its usual channels of communication on matters of faith do not run afoul of the Johnson Amendment as properly interpreted. All right. Now, IRS rule led to costly investigations, conservatives say. So here's what conservatives are claiming. The IRS has rarely punished houses of worship for endorsements during religious services through the agency, though the agency has investigated churches over alleged Johnson Amendment violations in April. Robert Jeffress, pastor of First Baptist Church in Dallas, told RNS that his church spent hundreds of thousands of dollars during an IRS investigation. The case was ultimately resolved in our favor, he said. Jeffress, who also said he'd been with Trump during a meeting where several pastors also spoke about being investigated over alleged Johnson Amendment violations during his first term in office. Trump signed an executive order designed to give churches more leeway under IRS rules. Still, only one church has ever lost its tax exemption over politics. In 1992, a church in New York took out ads opposing Bill Clinton, leading to the loss of its tax exemption. See, I mean, that's crazy. Like, why they should have been allowed to do that. The federal court filing is part of a proposed settlement of a lawsuit filed by the national religious broadcasters and a pair of Texas churches that sought to overturn the Johnson Amendment. Those groups argue that some nonprofit newspapers and other publications have been allowed to endorse candidates without running afoul of the IRS, while IRS rules barred churches and other nonprofits from doing the same. Plaintiffs believe that nonprofit newspapers have a clear and constitutional right to make such endorsements or statements, wrote lawyers for the plaintiffs in a complaint filed last August in the U.S. District Court of the Eastern District of Texas, Tyler Division. Plaintiffs simply contend that they should also have the same freedom of speech. So, yeah, they're claiming that, hey, why aren't we allowed to, openly support legislation and politicians that we believe in? So, I mean, they should, again, I mean, this is my opinion. They should be allowed to. I think it's extremely important that society as a whole exercises their ability to participate in politics and just the way the public is ran in general. I think it's extremely important. So let's see, where was I? Oh, yeah. So the NRB declined to comment about the proposed settlement. A spokesperson said the group was waiting to see if the judge approves the settlement. The proposed settlement would bar the IRS from requiring Sand Springs Church in Athens, Texas, and First Baptist Church in Wascombe, Texas, from having to abide by the Johnson Amendment, both now and in the future. Both parties would pay their own legal bills. Neither side would be allowed to appeal. Plaintiffs also asked the court to rule that the Johnson Amendment's ban on political speech by nonprofits is unconstitutional. Yeah, I mean, again, how can it not be unconstitutional? It's crazy to me. To me, it's a control mechanism. It's a way to keep these very powerful or potentially powerful groups and institutions silent, I mean, because the government obviously knows that churches have a lot of sway in their community. And so the government, in the interest of their own power, they're not going to want to allow the churches to, basically be open about who they support. I mean, and I'm not saying everyone in government, but a very large portion of our government wants to make sure that they maintain as much control over everything as they possibly can. So, anyways, let's see. So, where was I? But according to Sam Brunson, a professor at Loyola University Chicago Law School and an expert on tax law, the IRS legal agreement ultimately may not change much about the Johnson Amendment already functions in practice. This doesn't really represent a change in the 1970s, in the 70 years, that the Johnson Amendment has been law, he said. It's been enforced once against a church, and you see a lot of cases of churches trying to jump in and get their exemptions revoked so that they can challenge the constitutionality. And up until now, the IRS hasn't been willing to do that. Even so, Brunson said the legal filing, while narrowly tailored to the plaintiffs in question, may give other religious groups confidence that public endorsements won't result in a challenge to their tax-exempt status. So, this right here, I've got to say this. So, again, the article says that only one church, and this was back in 1992, has ever had their tax exempt status revoked for, going against, they went against Bill Clinton. So getting involved openly in politics, right? So if they've only ever done that once, then why have churches not, why have churches stayed so silent overall on being open about who they support and who they believe their congregation should support, and legislation and, that they should support? Is some of it just ignorance to where a lot of these churches really do believe that they can have their tax exempt status stripped away? Yeah, I'm sure that plays a part, but honestly too, I gotta say, it makes me believe that a lot of these churches, they probably also know this, but they don't want to get involved in politics anyways because they're afraid it'll affect the money coming in from their congregation, or they just don't want to rock the boat. And you know that's fine, but just be open about it. Tell your congregation, like, look, we're not going to get involved in politics because that's not our mission. But honestly, at the same time, yeah, that's your choice to do it. But I believe it's the wrong choice if that's what you choose to do, because as a church, and this goes for the charities as well, it is your duty to help guide and protect the flock, right? And politics obviously affects each and every one of our lives, from local to national. And so, in my humble opinion, I honestly believe that every single church should openly be involved in politics, openly supporting politicians that support their agenda, and openly support and push legislation that supports their agenda. And I'm talking about churches and charities. So that's how I feel about it. But you guys, I'm not going to read the rest of this article. It's pretty much, it's, you guys get the gist of it. Let me know what you guys think, though. I mean, what do you guys think about what I just said? Do I make sense, or am I taking it too far? Do you think I'm being too tough on the churches? I just, again, and it's not even just churches. I just feel like society in general, this goes for every single last one of us. Like, all of us have a duty in one way or another to figure out how to be politically involved in one way or another. And some have, whether they like it or not, have bigger roles than others. Like churches, again, this is my opinion, but churches absolutely have a larger obligation to be involved in the political process than, say, just one individual person. Because again, the church is supposed to be, obviously bringing people to God, bringing people to Jesus. And part of that is helping guide their flock towards politicians and legislation that will support their Christian way of life, and yeah, that's just how I feel about it. So, anyways, you guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. Also, you guys, if you can, man, please donate. I got a PayPal link down below, a Venmo link. All the pay links are down below. So what I'm trying to do right now with these funds, I'll just run it down real quick. I want to do a couple things. One, I want to start hitting the streets, do on the street interviews, and that includes setting up tents at courthouses on family court days and doing interviews with parents coming in and out of the family courts and doing interviews with attorneys at the family courts, judges, all that stuff right outside of the family courts, doing debates, stuff like that, kind of like a Turning Point USA thing. So that's one of the things I want to invest this money into that hopefully I can start bringing in with your guys' help. And that's the big vision. And yeah, and just help, also use the finances to push legislation forward, like equal shared parenting, like the Good Dad Act, which is equal shared parenting by Brandon Jennings out of Florida, help push Robert Garza's bills out of Texas that he's got going in several states, like the time taken, time back bill, the 3 strikes law, So that's what I'm planning to do with the finances, you guys. Anyways, if you can, please donate. And please also make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell. You guys, I love you. I appreciate you. And God loves you way more than I could ever. And until next episode, y'all stay blessed, y'all stay safe, and try to enjoy your life and trust in God. I'm out. Peace.